So we have Toastmonster on the Druid and Bilbz with the Rogue. Toastmonster is running the Toggle Woggle, as so I've heard, Druid.
Toggle Woggle.
Toggle Woggle. So his sort of game plan is to sort of survive until, you know, a Plague swing turn, and then ideally draw the rest of your deck and then go off with the combo. Sometimes you don't even need to go off the combo. Things like Malfurion are often enough to win the game with spreading Plague. For Bilbz, he's just going to try and kill the Druid, which is a pretty tall order these days with the amount of armor gain and sort of board control tools that Druid has available.
So, starting things off here, Wild Growth for Toastmonster is always a nice start. And Bilbz has got a pretty decent start himself with those 1-drops there.
One of the things about these 1-drops is they're actually kind of a downside sometimes if you have too many of them against Druid, because they just stay on the board until Druid's got the mana available for spreading Plague, and then they're just things you don't really want. They're nice to have when you have ways of buffing attack, like the Fungal Monster, which we see in hand, and sometimes stuff like Cold Blood can also be really powerful against Druid.
Wild Growth comes out, probably ramping up towards that Nourish. Obviously, Wild Growth Nourish is a great opening hand. Toggle Woggle, or Toggle Woggle is in hand here for Toastmonster, but you do need the Avalina as well.
So Bilbz has a decision here. He can coin out the Fledgling here, and provided there's no removal, he has the best chance of getting to a stage where, you know, Toastmonster can't deal with it. But there is so much removal in this Togwaggle deck, the chances of it surviving are very slim. So I think you won't really want to use the coin here, because that stops you from being able to do things like coin Fungal Monster. It's so likely that Toastmonster has either a Wrath, a Swipe, or even a Naturalize to deal with this Fledgling, that coining out here just seems like a waste of a coin, honestly.
Interesting. I want to talk to you about a particular decision. So I saw some Malagos Druids cutting Wrath completely from their deck. This time Toastmonster brought it in. Do you think he brought it in specifically because he knows in these matchups it's going to get some value?
The reason is that the late game of those decks have two different strategies. The Togwaggle Druid basically just wants to outlast your opponent.
Yes.
So fatigue is essentially your win condition. You have a deck full of useless stuff that you draw through really quickly. You swap decks, and then your opponent has no real way to win with all your stuff, and you just win through fatigue damage. With Malagos Druid, you need to actually burn out your opponent or win on tempo. The problem with Wrath is it can't go face. And with Druid cards being so strong, deck list gets tighter and tighter, and Wrath becomes one of the cards you want to cut.
Just remember it's not Malagos Druid. I saw the Malagos Druid from Bilbz, and I was like, ah, yes. Malagos Druid doesn't run Wrath that often, and I'm actually going to double check, does his Malagos Druid run Wrath? It does not. So that makes more sense. But in the Togwaggle Druid, where you're just looking to clear board up as much as possible and outlast, like you said, makes a bit more sense here. And a couple of really good cards coming through for Toastmonster. He's going to have the Nourish into the Malfurion.
Yeah.
And then he'll be ideally searching for something like a UI down the line.
So this is actually quite an interesting turn for Bilbz. By playing the Fledgling now, you kind of block off Nourish, because ideally a Druid wants to play Nourish for ramp on turn 5. If you play the Fledgling, it might force him to use like a Swipe or something else instead. Obviously you can do Nourish plus Wrath, which is insane against it, but Bilbz isn't playing around the nuts. On the other hand, if you play multiple minions this turn, you guarantee that you have 2 targets for Fungal Monster on the following turn, because if this Fledgling gets removed, your follow-up is really just playing more 1-drops.
Nourish into Wrath seems like a good shout here.
Yeah, I think Toast is like, okay, I think I've got a good turn. And he has Malfurion as well to follow up. This is looking very strong for Toastmonster.
Yeah, just needs to then start finding that card draw. Ferocious Howl is a nice cycle card. A lot of people like this, especially against aggro lineups when you have that full hand. Just buys you a couple of extra turns or a turn extra here or there.
Toastmonster's definitely thinking about it.
Is he thinking about the swipe now?
I doubt it. I think he's probably thinking about whether he wants to go for some sort of card draw. Probably not. I think he's just double checking. I mean, obviously it instantly jumps out to him, but you just got to do the double checking, make sure you're not missing something.
Bilbz did not play around the nuts, and he got nutsed. When a Druid has Wild Growth on 2, I just automatically assume they have Nourish.
I just assume they have everything. Plague, Nourish, Naturalize. They have the right one for the right situation.
every time.
Yeah.
Whenever I play even lock and I'm against a druid, they always have neutralize for my giant on 4. And then I overdraw something really important like Gul'dan.
That's where you got to start keeping Gul'dan in your opening hand. And you can't discard it.
Yes.
Play the long game.
I actually do that in the mirror sometimes.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, sometimes, just because it's a really important card, but
I can see that.
not always.
If the game goes, I think giants. If you haven't got a giant,
If
everything goes into the trash.
If I have a giant and Gul'dan, I keep it.
Yeah. Giant is the reason you play that deck, pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah. Because you can get turn 3 giant on the coin, which is great.
Back to this game. Toastmonster has quite a nice turn with Malfurion. This Fungal Monster is going to be really nice against these 1/5s.
Yeah, absolutely. And will start to mean that Bilbz actually gets into this game somehow, because he has been thoroughly lacking just through mana value and everything else, and Toastmonster having pretty much every card he would have ever wanted. One thing that Toastmonster might struggle with now is he will be desperately searching for another Nourisher UI. He needs to start getting that card draw rolling now. He has got the Ferocious Howl, but it's just but one draw.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with this Druid deck, it's really hard to draw dead. There's so many things that give you card draw. Azalina, honestly, is drawing dead at this point.
Yes. One of the few dead draws here, but it means the combo is there when they eventually get the Emerald Dreamweaver. Is it Emerald Dreamweaver? Can't remember the actual card. It's a new card, boys. Can't remember. Dream Petal Florist.
Yeah.
Emerald Dreamweaver was definitely close.
I think that is another card.
I think it might actually be another card.
I'm not sure Toast is running it. I'm not even sure why it is.
The thing is, I play World of Warcraft as well, you see, so a lot of these names obviously run across the two universes. I'm pretty sure Emerald Dreamweaver is at least a mob in World of Warcraft that I've had to fight at some point. So, Toastmonster has got decent answers, but the problem is, like we said before, he just needs some extra card draw. He needs to start churning out.
Well, the thing is that he's got the Malfurion hero power now. So in terms of survivability, you can actually out-heal the dagger from the rogue. All you have to do is deal with the minions and you're fine. And sooner or later, you're going to find stuff like Plague, you're going to find UI. So Toast has quite a lot of time, especially with removal like Swipe in hand here.
Yeah, can completely clean up the board on this next turn if he so chooses.
That seems like a good turn.
That's a good turn. I like that. I even like Spreading Plague Swipe. I even like Spreading Plague Hero Power.
Yeah, he could choose to hold the Swipe. Really, all it does is kill the 2/1 here, and you can just save that for the next turn. Plague and Hero Power here is quite strong already. Of course, he does know that Bilbz runs the Void Ripper, which you can see in hand, which is a potential answer for Spreading Plague. So actually clearing off as much as you can with a Swipe here has its benefits.
Let's see what he so chooses. It's just going to be the Hero Power clear out.
Conserve his resources.
And now it's another board of 1/5s. No Fungalmancer in hand for Bilbz.
Void Ripper does answer it very nicely.
It does, yes. Void Ripper is a good answer to this board here. He will have to take 5 damage to face, but he's got so much HP as a resource right now that would not be an issue.
Yep.
And now we're just waiting to see Bilbz thinking about deck handing.
So
it's just weak to swipe though, but I guess are you playing around double swipe?
So one of the things about this deck hand, you don't really need to save it for a Vile Spine, because this Togwaggle deck runs about 3 minions in total.
So many.
And most of them, you know, don't really need a Vile Spine to kill. A 3/3, a 5/5, and a 4/4. So I think you probably want to just be putting this on board for damage. You've already seen a Swipe, you've seen a Spreading Plague already. You do need to kill the Druid at some point, and they do already have an upgraded hero power. I don't think you'd hold on to it.
Biology Project. Give each player 2 mana crystals. Not that good right now.
Nope. One of the downsides of Biology Project, it ramps you up to your 10, but when you are on 10 and your opponent's not, it feels really bad to play. Not that he needs the mana this turn, as he doesn't have a whole lot to do.
It's kind of just a dead card for the rest of the game now, to be honest.
So Toastmonster's thinking whether he can take this 3 damage with the hero power, or whether he wants to just swipe this away and start armoring up. He does have a Naturalize for some of the threats that Bilbz can do, and he has the hero power available for 3/3s. Something the swipe can clear that the hero power can't is a Hench Clan Thug, which we haven't seen any of from Bilbz so far, and you don't really want to be naturalizing that because you're just giving Bilbz potentially more draws.
More draws, so Naturalize is not a card that you'll be looking to use. I think Swipe and just armor up now.
Yeah, it was definitely a decision because you don't want to be taking too much face damage and suddenly start worrying about Leroy Jenkins. But you don't want to be using your resources on nothing. So it's quite a delicate balance at this point.
Bilbz just going to start to try and slowly chip away at this health total. It's not like it's an insane health total for Toastmonster. He is sitting only at 18. And that is not an insurmountable amount because he's now used 2 swipes, 1 Spreading Plague. You're starting to lose. I mean, as I just say that.
Yeah, Plague for 2 when you're in top deck mode's absolutely fine, especially when you're facing down rubbish minions like these.
And you can just like face tank the 1/3 with a hero power. That's not a big deal at all.
I mean, as soon as Toastmonsters finds either a UI or he finds the 7 mana 4/4 that reduces one of your cards, he can go off and pretty much just win the game. So he's just got to wait till then.
If Bilbz can get through this, though, pretty much all of the nuts have been dealt with. He's dealt with pretty much all of them. And Baku coming down, actually, in this situation, is not a bad play at all because it will start to deal with these 1/5s, and he'll be able to clear them both off on the next turn.
Yeah, and if it does force a Naturalize, then suddenly you're actually drawing some meat in your deck, really.
Yes.
We have the Vile Spine, which potentially can kill one of these 1/5s as well. The Naturalize does have to come down, which is going to accelerate Bilbz's game plan a bit. Oh, he's going for the Azalina right now, deciding that he wants to just play for board at this point instead of going for the combo, realizing that once he's naturalized both of their stuff, it might be too hard, given he's used so much removal, to actually get through his deck. So
actually, with the board state that he's got, it is not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah,
because
picking up that Cold Blood was insane. It's just going to mean that he's going to potentially be able to sort of outmuscle Bilbz. But he does have defensive options with Giggling Inventor, Vile Spine Slayer here.
Yeah, but he knows that Toastmonster's got exactly the same thing in hand, so... Takes up the 5 at least.
Toast's nodding like... I mean, he knows what was going to happen this turn.
I mean, he knew exactly what was going to happen because it was in his own hand.
So, interesting strategy. Trying to win with the Rogue's deck here. He does have a better hero power than the Rogue as well. So maybe it's just going to work out for him because Bilbz is just going to be starting to draw... Oh no, sorry. He hasn't done the Togwaggle combo.
He lost Togwaggle. He threw Togwaggle away. So now it's just the Druid deck.
Yeah, my mistake. I always assume when they do that, that it's the combos and we swap decks, but it actually hasn't happened. So Toast actually has to win with his hero power, essentially.
He has to win with this board. He has to win with this board or bust. He has got him down to 10 and he has got Leroy in hand. So, I mean...
I can see it happening.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, I think Bilbz is thinking, like, do I trade off things here? Because if we look at this board... Is there a way he survives, actually?
I don't think there is.
Is this just a win for Toastmonster? With the heads-up Avelina?
Yeah, I mean, recognizing there was a lot of dead cards in hand for a while, maybe nodded to the fact that there was a Leroy in there, so he could potentially just go for a burn strategy, given that he was quite far ahead on board.
Leroy does nothing. Like, it literally removes 1 power. By trading into a 3... By trading into a 3 power minion, he only removes 1 power with Leroy, which is awful.
Bilbz should know he's dead here.
Yeah, he knows. Because he knows there's the Leroy in hand.
Yeah.
So, this is a bottom right-hand corner play for Bilbz.
And Toastmonster going for the aggressive strategy and gets there.
I mean, I think he could have very, very easily ascertained that Leroy was one of those cards in Bilbz's hand. Like, you make a good, educated guess that one of those cards is Leroy.
And even so, he was just sort of realizing he'd used both Spreading Plagues, he'd used both Swipes, he'd used a lot of his removal. So going toe-to-toe, once you've naturalized the Rogue, didn't seem like the best strategy. So I really like the way Toast...
At least he got value out of the naturalize as well by stealing the cards
that
he forced the Rogue to draw. That was a really heads-up play from Toastmonster, very impressive. And I think... I don't know whether he had the read on Leroy. I'm hoping he had the read on Leroy because that would have made it that much sweeter.
Yep.
But he really made that work for him. He knew exactly, obviously, what would be coming his way. And actually won on board with Togwaggle Druid, which puts him a 1-0 up in this series. And now he has to win with his Shaman, which is that tempo Shudderwock, and with the Warlock, which is that Even Warlock, which Even Warlock can, in my opinion, pretty much beat most decks in the game just by having the Giants on turn 3 or turn 4. So it depends on what he gets from the mulligan.
Now, one thing with Even Lock is that you can't run Giggling Inventor, which is a huge downside of the deck. It
is just a good card.
Yeah.
But obviously also it's kind of weak to be Giggling Inventor in a way as well. It does have things like Defile, which Defile, if you take off the Divine Shields and stuff, can improve a bit of a nuisance. Weak to Hellfire in certain instances as well. So there are things that you can do as the Even Warlock, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, because it's going to be the Shudderwock Shaman going up against the Odd Rogue. What does this matchup feel like? With the tempo one, what does it feel like?
It's pretty good for the Shudderwock. They have great answers for a lot of rogue stuff. Healing Rain is a big boon for them. Stuff like Chain Gang are really kind of annoying to get through. It is quite hard for the rogue to win unless they really snowball a fast start with a hand kind of like this, with things like Thug and Fledgling if they go unanswered. You can also go for things like double one-drop and Cold Blood.
Toastmonster not picking up those Fireflies, which are in this deck, which would have been very valuable. I mean, obviously they get eaten up by the Rogue Hero power, but regardless, you know, it makes them eat something rather than eating the face.
Yeah, now Toast is running actually a tempo-ish version of the Shudderwock, which might actually fare a little bit worse against this this Odd Rogue, because you kind of have to just play for board a bit more.
He has got Grumble. It's weird. It's like a half. It's like a half tempo, half normal.
So it's got Grumble, but it's missing out on like
2 corridor creepers.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's similar to the previous one, but running Grumble. But you don't have, you don't have Life Drinker in the deck, so going infinite with Grumble is a bit harder. You don't have Volcanoes, you don't have Healing Rains, so it's a bit harder to just play the sort of control strategy. Imagine a Hex is coming down quite swiftly for this Hench Clan Thug.
I think Hex is the best way to deal with that right there. You don't want to let that start to get out of control. And he will very swiftly put that into the... Plus, I put it into the bank, that literally makes no sense. There is Kellerset there for Toastmonster. He has also got other answers like the Sour Knight, which can come down to buy a bit of time. He might even think about trying to go for the YOLO Lightning Storm at this point with the seeing that Vicious Fledgling come down.
Toastmonster does run 2 mind control techs, so Bilbz actually just played into it. There are 3 meh targets for the MC tech right now.
But 25% chance to basically win the game. It's not bad. I mean, not quite that strict and cut and dry, but...
Right. Toastmonster with quite a nice curve here. He's got Giggling Inventor and a Grumble. So if you can Giggling Inventor, often it's quite hard to kill the 2-1, which is actually the card itself. So if you can Grumble that back, then suddenly he's got a 1-mana Giggling Inventor, which is very, very powerful.
Void Ripper is good here.
So by the looks of it, he might be able to play it and have everything survive.
What did he get? What did Bilbz get in terms of choices? It's all hidden behind candy canes and Christmas presents. Doesn't look like it's Wind Fury, though. Hey, production! I thought we had Discovery option on production. my producer just said my bad. Thanks, James.
All right, now Toastmonster love to be able to Grumble here. Of course, if he is just left with a 2-1, Grumbling is quite nice, but then you just leave yourself facing down whatever the rogue has on board this turn. So it might not be even possible to Grumble this 2-1 away without taking too much damage on the backswing. So it might be forced to go for a Lightning Storm this turn.
Doesn't feel good though, because you're definitely not going to get rid of the Vicious Fledgling.
Yeah, I mean, in combination with the Lightning Bolt, it's possible.
Oh, true, the Lightning Bolt there. There we go, on it, James, like it. And he has got options. 3 health for me feels probably the best option. You could also think about stealth into your next turn.
Yeah,
With the Divine Shield, I suppose, still makes sense.
Yeah, this dodges the Lightning Storm completely, because there's no way to actually, unless it's facing double Lightning Storm, there's no way to pop the shield and then Storm.
However, lack of Wind Fury and lack of aggressive options means it is just a 3-3 hitting him in the face for the most part right now. So it hasn't popped off crazily.
I mean, something he could do is actually go for the Grumble here, because Oh, he's not going to go for it. It was tempting, because it isn't quite enough damage to lethal him. He could go for the Grumble and then go for a swing turn of the Giggling plus Lightning Storm on the follow-up. Because as it is right now, it looks like you're just going to be losing board.
Looks like a decent Fungalmancer turn by playing the 1-drop with the Fungalmancer.
Yeah. Like, with this line from Toast, he's got a very expensive hand and he's overloaded for the next turn. So I'm wondering what he can do as a way
Fury.
to do. Oh.
Finally. Toastmonster's face said it all.
Another Wind Fury.
Divine Shield. And I don't know what you do here for Toast.
Yeah, I think this is lights out. He needed another Giggling.
He's pretty done-zoed, unfortunately. Dead on board, realistically. And
yep.
I think Toast is just going to throw in the towel here. That was a good, heavy odd road game coming out. And Bilbz pretty much hit exactly what he wanted to. And Toastmonster didn't really have the answers. And now he has to go up against the remaining decks from Bilbz, which are... The Druid got banned, I believe. No. What did get banned, actually, from Bilbz? I've forgotten.
You know, I've forgotten as well.
I've forgotten as well.
I think it might have been the Druid.
I'm gonna not so sneak. what got banned? Oh, there we go.
Oh, it was the Warlock.
Oh, he's on it. He knew it. It's Warlock that's been banned here, so it's going to be the Druid and the Mage left up here for Bilbz. What do you think? Also, with Druid, I mean, that definitely wasn't a win for Toastmonster, but we could just throw that off because there we go. Oh, they've done it.
Oh,
but they blame me for rushing them, so we can take the blame. It is 1-1 apiece though, as you can see. Druid has got the win as the Rogue does, and now it's going to be that Warlock and Shaman versus Mage and Druid. What are your opinions of these matchups? I feel like the Burn Mage versus the Warlock can just get it done. You know, because the Warlock's tapping all the time and
definitely can. I mean, the Warlock, part of the game plan is damaging themselves, and Mage's game plan is just to send damage at your face. It kind of lines up pretty well.
I feel like you get it done there. The question marks in my head are Burn Mage versus the Shaman, and he does run Healing Rain, I believe.
He doesn't actually.
He doesn't? Oh, that might make that Mage a bit more favoured in that matchup with the no Healing Rain running.
It doesn't run Healing Rain, but it does run a few more tempo tools like Lightning Bolt, Firefly, which... You know, historically, those tempo mages suffer against early game.
Yeah.
But it's not the strongest early game, so they might be okay.
And then obviously they're going with the Malygos Druid. Depends on how the Malygos get the combo together, because obviously with no overheal coming from the Shaman, you can just straight up lose in that scenario. Yeah,
I mean, Spreading Plague is quite lines up very well against that Shaman deck. So we'll have to see how that one goes. But for this one, we're going for a Druid versus Warlock. Malygos Druid, we do see a Twig in hand. There is one Ooze in the deck of the Warlock, but we haven't seen it yet. There is a Demonic Project, though, which is a great tool to be able to actually just completely nullify the Malygos combo by just hitting it. If you've seen the Druid kind of try and set it up, you can just go for the Demonic Project, get rid of that Malygos, and then suddenly the Druid has no win condition.
Still, good nutty opening hand. You've got plenty of options from Toastmonster. Doesn't have the coins, so can't get the turn 3 Giant out, but the turn 4 Giant is definitely on the cards here.
Oh yeah.
Double Naturalize in hand though is obviously a great answer, but you never expect. Well, actually no. If you talk to us, you definitely expect the Double Naturalize, but if you're Toast, you might not expect the Double Naturalize.
Yep, seems like a standard strategy for Toastmonster. He has got the Blood Reaver Gul'dan, so he's not so worried about overdrawing anymore. If he drops the Giant next turn, it does get naturalized. Of course, the Blood Reaver Gul'dan can help you sort of survive against potential burst damage combos.
Yeah, absolutely.
You would very much like to see an Ooze eventually. You have got quite a long time to find it because there's no point oozing the Twig until it gets down to 1 charge.
No.
For Bilbz.
Is he running one? I don't know if he's running it. He's not running an Ooze.
Toastmonster?
No, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong Warlock. Bilbz's Warlock got banned. He is...
At the top.
Acidic Zombie. Yes, he is running an Ooze. You were right. You're right, Jobber. I was reading the wrong Warlock list. If you want to see these deck lists, you can go to esl.im/HS decks, and you can check out those deck lists for yourself. #sellup. for the company that I work for. So, Toastmonster now. Thinking about it hard, and he's going to go for the Twilight Drake first.
Yep, this just lets him curve better with Giant and Sunfury next turn if he wants to do that.
Maybe wanting to bait out a Naturalize as well, potentially.
Yeah, oftentimes the Druid doesn't even bother going for Naturalize because it's only 4 damage.
Yeah, on the Twilight Drake, and you want to save it for those big beefy mountain giants.
Or Lich King down the line is another thing.
True.
Like, there's so much armor gain. He did use a bit of his armor gain, so maybe he's a bit worried about taking 4 turn.
That is the first Naturalize. Let's see what gets burnt. Oh, that's a good burn. No one cares about Vulgar Homunculus. It does help you buff your Spellstones, obviously.
Bilbz choosing not to go for the Twig that turn, which is interesting. Oftentimes in this matchup, you don't want to use the Twig just for an OTK. Just the tempo you gain is enough because the even Warlock's quite rigid in their turns.
Another Naturalize here. Let's see what it pulls. Ooh, running a Shadow Flame. Skulking Geist getting pulled as well.
I would like to see a Twig come down now. I know he knows there's an Ooze in the deck for Toastmonster, but they don't always have it. So instead going for a Wild Growth. This is just saying, I'm just not going to use the Twig at all this game. Because you don't really need the 4 mana, the 8 mana next turn too much, I'd say. Like, you could just go for a Wild Growth after you've Twigged anyway, and you should be pretty fine.
As far as burns go, he wasn't hit too hard. I mean, losing a Hooked Reaver does feel kind of bad because you like that for the gold down, and also, obviously, 7/7s are always nice. Still has a Twilight Drake and still has a Mountain Giant, which are not going to get naturalized because the naturalizers have now all gone, so they can be played pretty safely for Toastmonster. He also has things like the Black Knight, which is going to get value against this Druid somewhere down the line. Could even get value now if he wanted it to versus the Malfurion Scarabs. I don't know if he runs... He does run the Lich King, so Bilbz does run the Lich King.
Yeah.
And obviously Toastmonster will be aware of that. This is a new addition, by the way. The Spirit Bomb.
Spirit Bomb, yeah. 2 mana card. Hench Clan Thug Killer.
Oof.
You could call it that. Essentially what it does. 2 mana deal 4 damage is always quite nice. Taking 4 is quite a lot, but like I said before, there's plenty of ways to heal up in this deck, and you do kind of want to get low because of the Hooked Reavers.
And you also have 2 Spellstones and 2 Spellstones to hand, so take 4 damage, you're going to get that back in terms of value from the Spellstones eventually anyway.
Probably don't want to use it on 1/5s though. Here.
No.
They're not too
they're better targets. Arcane Tyrant Spike Strikes.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good target for these Spirit Bombs, so...
Could go for something like a Spellbreaker on these because... Always going for Defile.
Is that just to clear his hand a little bit? Or is it just to get the 1 damage down so you get a trade with the...
I think he just wants to get the trade. And Defile's fairly useless in this matchup, I'd say.
Health total looking pretty nice, though. Still at above 20, so not putting himself too low. So you're not going to get cheesed by Malfurion, Malagos Double Moonfire or something like that.
So Bilbz could, if he developed the Twig on 4, he could have had it down to, I think, 3 charges now.
Yeah. He could have gone
Swings
UI.
this turn, UI's next turn. Suddenly he has an active Twig.
I mean, if you're trying to play around Ooze here, the Ooze isn't going to get used on anything else. You're not going to force the Ooze out through minion pressure. So I think you're right. Like, just slamming the Twig earlier, and if he has Ooze, he has Ooze. You lost Twig anyway, right? Yeah,
it's like you could either never play the Twig and you've just essentially oozed it yourself, or you could run the risk of him oozing it. I mean, there wasn't much downside to playing it. He's going for it now, which is kind of the latest strategy, you know, essentially by 3 turns here.
And there is obviously now 3 more turns for Toastmonster to find that Ooze.
Yeah.
Tell you what,
That's not bad.
Sounds pretty good. But with no Naturalize, has to force some other kind of removal coming out from Bilbz.
Think about whether he wants to take the trade. One of the reasons to take the trade, you know, is essentially for removal reasons. Swipe plus a hero power still removes it, so I'm not sure if that trade was completely necessary.
So it's going to be the UI, it looks like. And then obviously you've got the double Arcane Tyrant afterwards.
Yeah, that's quite a powerful follow-up.
Let's flip it in this floop. There's Malagos.
Because you probably don't want to be swinging into an 8/8 here. Taking 8 damage. Not too appetizing.
Spirit Bomb getting lost is not the worst thing in the world there, but you obviously have a Spirit Bomb and an Spellstone if you want to clean up. Death and Decay. How much are you going to get out of Death and Decay this game? Probably not a huge amount.
So Shadow Flame's a tech card that Toast has in his deck. Shadow Flame in this Lich King is not too appealing.
Could Shadow Flame a Hooked Reaver if you wanted to.
Could. And then not quite a good way to clear off the remaining 5-1. Instead going for this combo, which is really nice for clearing up the board here. So Shadow Flame coming in quite nice there.
Yeah, I mean, that goes... again, like you said, hard to get value out of board clears versus the Malagos Druid because they're never really going to go wide on the board.
Yeah.
The best value you get is something like, you know, cleaning up a Spreading Plague if they run it, for instance. But this is actually looking like a pretty beefy hand now for Bilbz. He has got Flibidinous Floop in hand, which means he can Malagos. He's got double Moonfire. He's got Alex Straza.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether you can sort of set up the lethal here. He's got...
Can you just Alex Face and then Malagos Moonfire and next turn Flibidinous Floop Moonfire swipe? Or just a Malagos double Moonfire and the next turn Flibidinous Floop and then swipe?
Yeah, that's definitely what he's thinking because, of course, you'll have the UI as the follow-up after that, even if that's not quite enough damage then. There's only so much healing from the Warlock. Of course, Blood Reaver Gul'dan is a big boon to that. You also don't really want to be taking 8 damage a turn from this Lich King and giving them Lich King cards. Instead, goes for the Lich King. I think I'd rather see an Alex Straza than the Lich King, just because it gives you that sort of burn strategy if things start going badly. This also is very weak to the Black Knight, which Toastmonster is, of course, running in his deck. And
he also has that Swamp Ooze, which, by the way, if he had played it on the turn that you suggested, he would have actually been able to use the Twig by now.
There you go.
And again, like you said, if you're trying to play around Ooze and you're playing a long game strategy, the likelihood is they're going to get Ooze. So you either just go in early and hope they don't have it, or you just get Oozed.
Yeah. Toast is just saying, I mean, realistically, the Twig's never going to happen, so he's just going to play the Ooze for tempo. Regardless here, it's not very realistic for Bilbz to get 4 swings off at this point.
Ferocious Howl comes out to buy him some more time, but I mean, Plague is all right off the top.
He could go for Plague and Obliterate, which is actually pretty decent here. Oh no, he can't. Sorry, he hasn't got
the mana for it. But Plague buys him some time.
Go for Plague Lich King. Sorry, Obliterate Lich King for 3/4. I don't think that's great. You probably want to be using that with Malagos.
You need to, I think, at this point. I think you're at that stage of the game where it's just... Has Bilbz got enough to hero power here?
Yeah, I think this is fine because essentially what you can do is you can play the Malagos and then you can go for a huge swing turn with just Flute plus Swipe, which is going to deal with essentially any sort of board that Toastmonster is able to put out at this point.
There's 2 Spellstones in Toastmonster's hand right now. I don't know how buffed up they are. There hasn't been a Spirit Bomb used. See what he steals from the deck. He steals nothing. So he steals Giggling Inventor. I got a little bit excited there.
So something to note that's in Toastmonster's hand is the Demonic Project. If Bilbz starts trying to set up an OTK combo, say he does play the Malagos, then maybe you can just go for a Demonic Project whilst clearing it, and then the Floop's just gone.
It's too late at this point, I think, now, because he's just dead next turn, or he can assume he's dead next turn. He's like basically 1-off lethal, so you've not seen a Hellfire yet. Yeah,
this is a case of, I think Bilbz is just playing a little bit too slow this game.
Like, he could have jammed that Alex Straza the turn that he jammed the Lich King. He could have been trying to set that with the Malagos in the following turns, and then use Flibidinous Floop into the swipe. He could have jammed that Twig if he'd played that Twig on that turn, he probably actually would have killed Bilbz. Yeah,
I mean, he would have at least swung the board in his favor completely with the Malagos. Like, you don't always have to just kill them with the combo. Like I said before, the even lock is a very rigid strategy. They have, you know, a set amount of stats they can put onto the board each turn, a set amount of removal they can use. They don't really have huge swing turns available. If you can get ahead on board, you're just going to be able to keep them off it and push for lethal damage. But right now, for Bilbz, it's kind of looking like too little, too late, to be honest. He's going to go for armor up and just defensive. Hopefully this is enough to sort of make him survive through damage on the next turn. Then he can start dropping some of his big threats.
needs to start thinking about getting that Malagos on board. Down to 18. I mean, Malagos double Moonfire gives him 12. And on the follow-up, he's got the Flibbertinous Floop and Swipe. And then you just have to hope maybe Demonic Project hits Alexstrasza, but then you also have to deal with the Spellstones. It's not a great position. You've already used one Swipe as well, so that face damage is now going to sort of be lower. And this is, I think, all the burst that you've got on your hand right now.
Yeah, so Toastmonster can just sort of load up some damage onto the board here.
Right, he just wanted to get those Hooked Reavers online. That's why he burned. He didn't really care about burning a card there. Because Hooked Reaver represents the best way to threaten lethal again the following turn.
Yeah, the burnt card really doesn't matter too much. I mean, he could have done better ordering here and ended up with more card in hand. So a slight missequencing error there by Toastmonster.
And Toastmonster's never in a position, Bilbz is never in a position from Toastmonster threatening lethal every turn to ever look to set up this Malagos play.
Yeah.
And obviously we know that Toastmonster's got the answers in his hand. I'm sure Bilbz is going to read there's at least one Spellstone in hand somewhere.
I think you're going to have to start using this Malagos to kill some minions and then hope to, like, you know, get through on board. If you can not die next turn while using as little resources as you can whilst developing the Malagos, then you've suddenly got that Floop Swipe available.
And that clears board really nicely. You can deal with the Blood Reaver Gul'dan drop, for instance. Not that there's anything that... I don't think anything can get rezzed from Blood Reaver Gul'dan right now, apart from the Hooked Reaver that hasn't died yet.
Yes. That's probably why Toast hasn't played it by now.
Yeah.
He's going for a Plague again. This could buy him some time. Oh, that Mountain Giant's a very big draw. Of course, both Plagues are gone now. Defensive options for Bilbz are kind of gone. We've already seen the Lich King card disappear. So there's no threat of a Doom Pact available. If I'm Toast here, I'm just jamming as much stats as I can onto the board. And just trying to put as much damage and much pressure onto the opponent. So I'm looking at Stream Brewer and the Mountain Giant. And try and set up that lethal again, because Bilbz is rapidly running out.
We haven't missed lethal here, have we?
No.
I was just in my head, just starting to wonder. It's going to get 2 taunts back as well. Makes the board a little bit beefier.
It does. Okay, he's taking that trade just to play around Swipe a little bit. Not sure if it was that necessary to use the Hellfire then. You kind of don't really push too much damage more damage over 2 turns over developing like the Stream Brewer there.
He's actually only 3 off lethal as well with the Malagos, but he knows that the Malagos max burst at this point is only 12 from the Moonfire.
Exactly. So. Toast knows the breakpoints. He knows that he's very safe on 15.
Yeah, it's a very safe position to be. Obviously, put himself down further, close to 12, then you might be worrying. But although he doesn't really innovate. If, you know, Bilbz had an innovate in this deck, it could have been Malagos double Moonfire. Oh, no, wait, because there's taunts in the way. I don't know, I'm just
Mind Blast?
yeah, Mind Blast. Mind Blast off the top. No worries. And that is a telegraph there for Toast.
So he's saying, I hope you have no healing whatsoever in hand, which is pretty tall order at this point, but, you know, it is a way he could potentially have won this.
I think you just double Spellstone just to seal the deal. You could even just Gul'dan.
I mean, yeah. It's like, is he one-off lethal here?
So many possibilities.
No, he's not. He's not. He's got Spirit Bomb, Amethyst. That's lethal, right?
Okay, yeah, so he's got Spirit Bomb, Amethyst, so you take this game.
I think that's right. Yeah, that is lethal.
Because he's got
20,
15, 19 there.
It's 20 damage. This is not lethal if he takes this trade.
Because he has the Spirit Bomb, then double Amethyst onto the Neutron.
Oh,
I think he's seen it. I think he's spotted it. It's exactly lethal with this.
That was a close one, Toast.
It was
almost missed lethal.
It wasn't the easiest lethal to find, to be fair.
I mean, when you're in this turn, you're just like, I need to survive.
Yeah. So you don't often think about lethal straight away.
Yeah,
probably just caught up with him as he was making that single trade. And there we have it. It's going to be 2-1 over to Toastmonster. Takes the win with that even lock in a matchup that There were some tech cards in there to help deal with the Malagos Druid, obviously with the ooze and things like that. But a matchup that is winnable for the Malagos Druid in the right circumstances.
I mean, Twig is a huge way to do it. He had Twig available on turn 4. If you're not going to go for it, what's the point of it being in your deck?
Strong words from John Ray. And now it is going to be the Shaman looking to get a win versus the Druid and the Mage. Very doable. The tempo version, the tempo-ish version of this Shaman probably going to be less effective versus something like the Druid than... Well, actually, I don't know, actually. This is difficult. I couldn't call that. What do you think? I'm going to ask you since you're way more knowledgeable than me.
Which matchup again, sir?
The Malagos Druid versus the kind of tempo-ish Shaman compared to the normal Shadowwalk Shaman.
Right, so one of the benefits of this Shaman is that it has things like Unstable Evolution and Thrall Deathseer, which can make huge minions. So if your opponent's going for like a Spreading Plague, they often don't remove your board. You can then follow that up with Thrall Deathseer, and then suddenly you've got like 4 or 5 big minions. And the Druid really doesn't have a great way to respond to that.
Yeah, and I mean, the Druid's win condition right is late game, just get Malagos, Libidinous Flute combos going, and try and get from 30 to 0 basically, which will be difficult against this Shaman, especially if it does tempo out like it can do. Not the best opening hand in the world for Toastmonster, but regardless, it's not a great one from Bilbz either. He still gets a mulligan though, so Bilbz does have the mulligan choices.
True, true. And as a Druid, I'd highly recommend looking for ramp.
Yes.
I think that's a general strategy for pretty much any Druid deck right now.
I think you're only a good Druid player if you draw Wild Growth on turn 2.
Bilbz seems to be a terrible Druid player right now because he's drawn 2 9-drops and no ramp so far.
This is definitely going to be Electro Stormweaver Farsight game as well. There's nothing else that you're going to be using it on, so...
I wish it was, but Toast's not running Farsight.
Oh, what? Okay, so he's gone for like an anti-aggro version.
Yeah, it's more like the tempo sort of style we saw earlier.
So he can run it with what? He can do it with Lightning Bolt and Lightning Storm.
Yeah, which is pretty good for tempo.
On the same target, which is obviously useless. Yeah, so basically Lightning Bolt and Lightning Storm. So he's got like a 6 damage Lightning Bolt or a 4 to 6 damage Lightning Storm, which is it's fine. It's not
going to be too great in this matchup, but
Lightning Storm especially. Maybe the Bolt will get some value somewhere down the line.
So maybe it's worth just going for Storm Rage here. Well, actually, no. Scratch that. Electro Storm Rage plus Lightning Storm is a great way to answer Spreading Plague.
There you go. Great way to answer Spreading Plague. You're very correct, because 2 out of 66% of the time you're going to get 5 or 6 damage out of it. So
yeah,
clever stuff from John Bray, and it is going to be... it's not a bad, actually, hand from Bilbz. It's a bit heavy for the UI. That's the only problem. There's nothing that you're going to play there really to create space for UI. However, you're not worried about overdrawing too much because you've already got a lot of the key cards that you're actually wanting.
Yeah. Oftentimes with UI, you just need the tempo gain of, you know, deal 5, make a 5/5, and summon a few cards and get some armor. So even if you're discarding a few cards, it's well worth just going for the UI if it's, you know, the best play on the board.
Naturalize comes down to deal with the fairly threatening board that we've got going on here for Toastmonster. He can also just Doctor 5 though. So.
Ooh. With a 5-mana 2/2 on board, this Unstable Evolution looks quite appetizing.
Oh yeah. It's not a great 6-drop. Let's see what the 7-drop's like.
Oh, that's a big one.
That's a decent.
So you don't really want to upgrade this 3/4, of course.
That's even better 8-drop. Hero power now, boys. You've done it.
I think it'll upgrade this 1/2 a couple of times.
Yeah.
This does.
It's true.
Oh, Toast's very happy about that. Oh, he gets 2 cards from this, the 1/5.
Oh my goodness. And it is
and
Obliterate and Death and Decay. Obliterate is a perfect card in a lot of scenarios as well against the Malagos Druid.
No, it's actually Anti-Magic Shell, which is
Shell.
insane against Druid because all of their removal is spell-based.
Oh, is this GG? Is this just over now? Is this just Toastmonster winning?
I think once this Anti-Magic Shell comes down, there's no way for Bilbz to get out.
The swipe and the Spellstone comes down onto Toastmonster, but he can play so much good stuff.
So he might not do it just yet.
No, go wider, get more value, I guess. You've just seen a lot of removal come down.
He has, of course, got to worry about Spreading Plague. Even an Anti-Magic Shelled board isn't amazing about
He does
Plague.
have Electra Lightning Storm, though.
Oh, he has Electra Anti-Magic Shell.
Oh my
Forget
God, he's got
that.
Electra Anti-Magic Shell!
That's insane. He's like, yep, you can plague me all you want. I'm going to win the game next turn.
Yeah, next turn he's just won. Electra anti-magic shell.
Oh my god.
And none of that is spreading plague anyway.
Even if a plague comes down, Toast's like, yep, plague all you want.
Oh, this is
he almost wants to see the plague just so he can.
Well, Toastmonster's 3-1, and he takes the series versus Bilbz. There's nothing Bilbz can do. Branching Paths doesn't even save him, I don't think. You gain 12 here, you go up to 31, and then what is anti-magic cell +3? +3? Or is it
+2? +2, but twice. So
it's 4/4 across that entire board is 20.
Blessing of Kings on every minion, and it can't be targeted.
It's 24 plus what you've got on board, which is definitely more than 7. So that's good game. Oh no, wait! I forgot about that. He drew that off the Ferocious Howl. What an incredible pickup, actually. I think that has given him one turn, right? That's given him one turn.
Look at this turn.
Bilbz can't even be mad. He can't even be mad.
Wow.
I saved him for one turn, but it's still lost the game.
You don't see many boards like this.
That's a lot of big boys that can't be killed.
Well, Bilbz hasn't hit the concede button yet.
He's going to UI his own face. I think that's.
I mean, there's not many other targets available.
I think that's basically the concede button. And Toastmonster is very well aware that he has taken the victory. I think Bilbz couldn't be mad. Just couldn't be mad about that. I mean,
no.
how can you be mad about the double anti-magic shell? Oh, that was good stuff.
Oh wow.
That was a fun game. I enjoyed that.
I definitely enjoyed that one.
And that means that Toastmonster take this 3-1 against Bilbz, and we will have our wonderful post-match analysis sheet. And you guys can see exactly how that got broken down. Early win for the Druid for Toastmonster, then struggled a little bit against the Odd Rogue, but unfortunately, the Malagos Druid from Bilbz just couldn't get it done. And Toastmonster takes the series 3.